Hi, I'm Norm Abram. Welcome to the new Yankee Workshop. Today we're going to build a project that you want to have right near your front door. You'll be able to check yourself out before you head out for the day in a nice beveled glass mirror.
Each weekend, millions of American families tuned out the chaos on other channels to watch Norm Abram step into his modest Massachusetts workshop. After putting on his safety glasses, he would begin building finely crafted wooden furniture. There was no manufactured drama, no eliminations, no celebrity guests, just one man, his tools, and a genuine passion for his craft. Despite its simplicity, the show held a loyal audience and remained remarkably steady for years. Then, in 2009, it suddenly ended without warning, leaving viewers stunned. The reason Norm Abram chose to walk away was entirely different from what most people assumed. How did such a quiet, unassuming show become such a lasting part of an entire generation's memory? To understand that, we have to go back to 1989, the year the new Yankee Workshop first aired and began its journey as a quiet television phenomenon. The birth and nature of the show. 1989, the early years. In 1989, Russell Marash, the producer of This Old House, noticed something unusual about his master carpenter, Norm Abram. Norm wasn't just skilled, he had a rare ability to explain complex woodworking in a way that felt simple and approachable, even for complete beginners. Believing that talent deserved its own platform, Marash gave him one, a 936-square-foot workshop behind an old farmhouse in Massachusetts. Fully equipped with both power tools and hand tools, it would soon become the iconic home of the new Yankee Workshop. The format was simple and consistent. Each episode began with Norm visiting a historical site or antique collection, studying a classic piece of furniture, whether it was an 18th-century chest, a shaker table, or a Windsor chair. He would break down its design and craftsmanship before returning to his workshop. From there, the real process began. Step by step, Norm recreated the piece himself. No shortcuts, no off-camera help. Every cut, every joint, every detail was done in front of the audience, turning raw lumber into a finished work of craftsmanship. In the 1990s, as television leaned more toward drama and competition, the new Yankee Workshop stood apart. There was no conflict, no gimmicks, just the steady hum of machines, the sound of tools on wood, and Norm's calm, steady voice. That quiet atmosphere became part of its appeal. People didn't just watch to learn, they watched to spend time with Norm. His familiar presence, plaid shirt, and constant reminder about safety became a comforting ritual in millions of homes. Over 21 seasons, Norm completed around 235 projects, from simple boxes to complex furniture and even a small sailboat. Each one reflected his precision and commitment to quality. But behind that calm, steady show was a demanding production schedule that few viewers ever saw. The reality behind the camera, the growing pressure, the 1990s to 2000s. A standard episode of the new Yankee Workshop ran for just 22 minutes on television. But behind those 22 minutes was an intense 40 to 60 hours of work from Norm Abram and the production crew effort that was carefully hidden beneath the show's calm and effortless tone. Much of that work happened long before the cameras rolled. Norm had to source the right wood for each project, often ordering weeks or months in advance, especially for rare materials. Every piece had to be carefully selected to ensure it met the standards for both construction and appearance. He also had to plan every step of the build, not just for accuracy, but so the process would make sense to viewers. Even camera angles and lighting had to be arranged to capture fine details without interrupting his workflow. The real pressure, however, fell on Norm himself. He performed every step on camera, no stand-ins, no hidden fixes. If something didn't go as planned, he didn't cut the scene. Instead, he would stop, explain the issue, and fix it in real time. Those unscripted moments became some of the most valuable parts of the show, building trust with the audience. At the same time, Norm was essentially working 2 full-time jobs. While dedicating up to 60 hours a week to the new Yankee Workshop, he also remained the master carpenter on This Old House, traveling frequently for filming. For years, he balanced the roles of builder, designer, teacher, and host, pushing himself through a relentless schedule. And eventually, that pace began to take a toll on the one thing he relied on most: his own body. The accumulated physical toll, the silent storm, 2000 to 2009. For over 20 years, Norm Abram's workshop was not just a place of creation, it was also where the physical cost of his work quietly built up. The conditions were tough. The workshop floor was bare concrete, and standing on it for 8 to 12 hours a day, year after year, placed constant strain on his feet, back, and joints. Over time, that strain turned into real health problems. The repetitive motions of sawing, chiseling, and sanding wore down his shoulders, elbows, and wrists, leading to chronic joint pain and injuries that became part of his daily life. His back suffered as well. Woodworking meant constant bending and lifting heavy hardwood boards, oak, walnut, cherry, often for hours at a time. The result was persistent back pain that followed him even outside the workshop. One of the most painful conditions he developed was plantar fasciitis, causing sharp pain in his heel with nearly every step. On the hard concrete floor, even standing became a challenge. On camera, however, none of this showed. Norm remained calm and steady, moving with the same confidence viewers had always known. But as soon as filming stopped, the reality set in. He would sit down immediately, rubbing his hands or back, sometimes struggling just to stand after long periods of work. This wasn't temporary fatigue. It was years of wear accumulating into something permanent. As he neared 60, his body was sending a clear message. It couldn't keep up with this pace forever. And sooner or later, he would have to make a choice. The decision to end, the hardest moment, 2009. In 2009, the decision was made to bring the new Yankee Workshop to a close. This decision was initiated entirely by Norm Abram himself and was not a result of pressure from the network or any decline in the show's popularity. After years of enduring a significant physical burden, he engaged in private, candid conversations with his longtime producer, Russell Morash, and the executives at the WGBH television station in Boston. He explained that his body was no longer capable of meeting the rigorous demands of the show's production schedule. Immediately following the announcement, various rumors began to circulate. Some speculated about internal conflicts, while others guessed that the show was canceled due to declining ratings. However, both Norm and the producers firmly denied these theories. There was no feud, the show was not being canceled by the network, and its viewership remained as stable and loyal as ever. The truth was much simpler and far more personal. It was a decision based entirely on health. In his official statement, Norm's words were concise and full of gratitude, with no hint of resentment. He said, "We've had a great run. We've built challenging projects, met wonderful woodworkers, and hopefully inspired many others to pick up the tools." His statement was a perfect reflection of his character, humble, direct, and focused on the positive aspects of his journey. Russell Morash, the man who first recognized Norm's unique talent, publicly confirmed this reality. He stated unequivocally, "The show cannot continue without Norm. There is no one who can replace him." For Morash and WGBH, the new Yankee Workshop was not just a show about woodworking, it was Norm Abram's show. His authenticity and skill were the heart and soul of the program, and the idea of finding a new host to take his place was simply unthinkable. Ending the show was not a sad conclusion for Norm, but rather the beginning of a new chapter. This difficult decision freed him from the relentless demands of the filming schedule. For the first time in many years, he had the time to dedicate himself to personal projects that he had long been forced to postpone. One of the most significant of these projects was completing the timber frame house he had been building for himself in Carlisle, Massachusetts. This was his dream home, a structure he had poured his heart into designing and constructing. Ending the show finally gave him the time and energy to perfect the final details, transforming it from a long-term project into his personal sanctuary, built for himself and not for a camera crew. The decision to stop was challenging, but it was made with clarity and dignity. Norm chose to listen to his body and prioritize his long-term health. And while the decision was made, quietly and professionally, its public announcement sent shockwaves through the community of viewers who had followed him for 2 decades. The audience reaction, a widespread shock. The announcement that the new Yankee Workshop would end came on October 16, 2009, and it caught everyone off guard. There had been no warning. The show was still airing, and Norm Abram appeared each week as calmly as ever. For many viewers, it felt like a close friend had suddenly disappeared without saying goodbye. Almost immediately, woodworking forums and sites like Fine Woodworking filled with reactions. Thousands of comments poured in, people sharing shock, gratitude, and a deep sense of loss. It quickly became clear that Norm's impact went far beyond television. Experienced woodworkers thanked him for reigniting their passion. Beginners said he gave them the confidence to start, turning something intimidating into something possible. Families remembered gathering every weekend to watch together, making the show part of their routine and their memories. This wasn't just about losing a TV program. People felt they were losing a mentor, someone steady, patient, and always there. For over 20 years, Norm had been a constant presence in their lives, and when he stepped away, it left a space that was hard to replace. Because the new Yankee Workshop was never just a show, it had quietly become part of American culture, built on craftsmanship, honesty, and the simple joy of making something with your own hands. And even after it ended, that legacy didn't disappear. It stayed just like the pieces Norm built, designed to last. The legacy left behind, what remained after the lights went out. Although the new Yankee Workshop stopped producing new episodes in 2009, its legacy has continued to live on and thrive. This legacy is not merely something that exists in the memories of viewers, but continues to be a tangible and accessible resource for woodworkers everywhere. First and foremost are the 235 classic projects that Norm built over 21 seasons. These designs, which include Shaker-style furniture, Windsor chairs, blanket chests, and Chippendale mirrors, have become benchmarks within the woodworking community. They represent a perfect fusion of traditional design and modern construction techniques. To this day, woodworkers continue to reference his projects to learn about proportion, structure, and finishing details. Another critical part of Norm's legacy is the collection of detailed plans created for each project. These plans were made widely available for purchase, allowing thousands of amateur and professional woodworkers around the world to recreate his masterpieces for themselves. This has helped to spread woodworking knowledge and skills to a new generation. Many people have used Norm's plans to build family heirlooms, passing down not only the finished piece, but also the skills and passion for the craft to their children and grandchildren. The advent of modern technology brought Norm's work to a new audience when, in 2023, the entire catalog of the new Yankee Workshop was uploaded to the official This Old House YouTube channel, making it available for free to a global audience. This move sparked a new wave of interest, as a younger generation who had never seen the show during its original run discovered it for the first time. Many of these new viewers left comments like, "This is the most peaceful and satisfying content I have ever watched," and "Watching him work helps my anxiety." This response proves the timeless and universal appeal of the show's simple, honest approach. Even the way the show concluded became a part of its legacy. The final season did not feature any new projects. Instead, each episode was a retrospective, with Norm revisiting and introducing some of the best and most memorable projects from the show's history. It was a humble and understated farewell, perfectly in keeping with Norm's character. It felt like a quiet tribute to the work that had been done, rather than an attempt at a grand finale. Norm Abram's legacy is not just about furniture or instructional videos. It is a philosophy of work that champions doing one thing well, with authenticity, and with a deep respect for both the materials and the end user. After the doors of the new Yankee Workshop closed, Norm did not disappear. He simply shifted his focus to a more sustainable pace. Life after the show. With the end of the new Yankee Workshop, Norm Abram was finally able to ease the workload that had defined much of his life. He didn't retire right away. He continued as master carpenter on this old house, but at a pace that was far more sustainable. Without the pressure of producing a weekly show, he could focus on the work itself. For the first time in years, he had time for his own projects. He returned to his timber frame home, finishing the details he had long put aside. He also explored other creative work, including appearing in the 2016 documentary Felled, a film about artists working with reclaimed wood, proof that his passion for the craft never faded. In 2022, Norm officially retired from this old house, closing a television career that had lasted more than 4 decades. By then, he had become more than a host. He was a defining figure in how Americans viewed woodworking and home building. Today, his life is quieter. He still spends time in the workshop, but not for the cameras. Now, he builds for himself, for his family, for friends on his own terms. In many ways, he has returned to where he started, a craftsman working alone, finding satisfaction in the simple act of making something well. Norm spent 21 years on the new Yankee Workshop, holding himself to an uncompromising standard. And when his body made it clear it was time to stop, he listened. He chose to step away while the show was still strong, rather than letting it fade. His story leaves behind a simple but powerful idea. You don't need noise or spectacle to create something meaningful. Consistency, honesty, and dedication over time are enough. And just as important, knowing when to walk away is part of the craft too.